Welcome to Plot Twist Radio, the show where creativity, storytelling, and the unpredictable path of the creative life all collide. I'm your host, Erin Egnatz. Welcome back to Plot Twist Radio, the show where we talk to artists, creators, and storytellers about the unexpected turns that shape who they become and what they make next. Today's guest is someone who lives at the intersection of humor, music, and meaning. My guest is a lifelong musician and performer whose path has taken him through entrepreneurship, venture capital, and corporate coaching. Yet music has always remained at the center of the story. With humorous lyrics, sharp wit, and an unmistakable emotional honesty, Will transforms everyday chaos into songs that are as funny as they are sincere. His work explores grief, parenthood, love, aging, and the strange beauty of life's messiest moments, using humor not to avoid the hard stuff, but to walk straight through it. After experiencing profound loss, losing both his mother and his brother within a single month, Will's music became a tool for connection, healing, and shared humanity. Whether he's on stage, in a boardroom, or writing with a guitar in hand, his goal remains the same: to bring light, joy, and a sense of togetherness to the heaviest and most mundane parts of life. This conversation is thoughtful, funny, and deeply human, so settle in. Well, thank you for joining us on Plot Twist Radio. I appreciate having you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a musician. I think probably like you and like a lot of people who kind of like to make stuff. I have done writing, poetry, other things in my past, but really have been focused on music full time now for about a year after a kind of meandering career that took me a lot of other places, which I could get into. But basically, I make a sort of blend of genres of music that are all about trying to look at the brighter side of life, and not in a sort of purely silly way, but just to kind of peek under the hood a little bit and see what can be funny about the things in life that get really heavy, like aging and parenting and grief and all the things that kind of everybody goes through, but that are things that there's a kind of a universal set of experiences for people.
So, what really got you into music versus one of the other mediums? Like for me, when I went into writing, it was a midlife type thing. Did you always know that music was your thing?
Yeah, I think so. So I was really lucky to grow up in a incredibly musical household. So and a very literary household actually. So my parents were a an English professor and a Renaissance music professor. So the dinner table conversation was always very interesting about everything from Moby Dick to like Renaissance instruments like the sackbut and the crumhorn, which are hilarious ones to look up. But yeah, so I was really lucky to just be in an environment where there were always instruments. It was always just, the kind of creative energy around just making stuff up was always there. There's always things to pick up. But then it clicked for me when I started playing guitar when I was probably 10 or so, because it meant that I could play stuff that I was listening to, which is, I think, an experience that a lot of musicians have. It's sort of this everything kind of gets on kind of power mode once you really start to play the stuff that you listen to, and then you start to learn from the things that you like, and then that kind of spirals. But as I said, I spent a long time pursuing other things with always music as a side career. So I was a kind of leadership development coach and consultant, management consultant. I was a venture capitalist. I was an entrepreneur, did a whole bunch of different stuff. And then, I like to think it's not quite midlife, but I did have a set of experiences that sort of collapsed what I think a lot of people go through in probably 10 or 15 years, losing a parent, losing a sibling. Just a lot of stuff happened in a really condensed period of time. And a little bit of a cliche, I guess, but it sort of was like, what is the way I really want to spend my time? And so that kind of precipitated then a couple year period of transitioning to doing it full time, but I'm feeling just incredibly lucky to do it. And so it feels, on one level, it feels like I've been doing it my whole life because I have, but it's a very different thing, as you know, to sort of commit yourself to it in a really public way, and not just in a public way, but in a way where you really actually start to feel like it is what you are doing and is your real kind of work and purpose, and more than just like a thing you do to entertain yourself. Although I still try to entertain myself with everything I'm doing for sure, as I'm sure you do as well.
Absolutely, and I bet it really keeps you busy too, doesn't it?
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt.
So, you were saying that music's kind of been a constant through your life. What did music give you early on that maybe nothing else did?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I don't know if there's nothing else that does it, but I feel like there are these, for different people, there are things that actually pull you into the present moment. And I this is harder and harder today than it even was when we were kids. But even then, right, there's so much stimulus. There's You can get in your head thinking about, what other people's opinions are. You can get in your head thinking about something you did before, or thinking about the future or the past. And I just think that when you find something that actually makes you be present, that yeah, among all the different signals it can send you, I think that is one of the most powerful ones to listen to, and music does that for me for sure. I think there's a bunch of left brain, right brain kind of holistic person stimulation that comes from it too, right? There's especially from the craft of going from, an idea to the very detailed concrete decisions around like producing a final recording, right? Which is both, there's technical elements to it, there's very structured things, and then there's of course the incredibly meandering creativity, like when you're writing it first, the first page of everything I've ever written was just like, totally goes in whatever direction. Um, but I think there's a lot of that is there, but there's a kind of alignment around my entire literally body and just my entire self that I think comes when I'm listening to music that I love, when I'm at a concert, when I'm playing, and particularly performing. I think gives you that. It forces you to be in the present moment. It forces you to learn. I really think there's no substitute for performing in front of people and being in, ideally in person, but just being synchronized with other people, because, in a way there's nowhere to hide, but that makes it sound kind of scarier. But I think there's a way that it forces you to be lucid that I think is great, and you're not escaping to your phone, you're not escaping to anywhere else. And so that's among the many things music gives me. It's that, and also I think the ability to connect with people in a different language, even if sometimes the language is actually, lyrics. But I think it's a different thing when you have it externalized from you in a piece of art, whatever it is. It gives everybody permission to look at it a little bit differently. Than It's like you can have a heart to heart without having to, you know, go through all the steps of building that level of trust with somebody, because you can both be looking at the same thing and sort of have a shared experience of it, which I think is amazing. And so when literally the highest compliment that I can get from anybody when they listen to my music is when they say something like, I feel seen. That's just like, I'm like, okay, I literally, if nothing else happened with my whole career, but just somebody actually felt that every once in a while, I'd be good, so
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel that, authors, musicians, screenwriters, when it connects with the audience, that is so rewarding. Yeah, it may not, it's hard to make a lot of money in these kind of industries unless you're, at the top, but it is so rewarding to know that your message has connected with people.
Yeah, well, I think it's funny that you talk about, like, the story element, which is another thing that, 'cause I make music as Willitant that has lyrics, and their stories, their vignettes often about, again, mundane things in life, or just about silly there's a whole range of stuff. But I also make instrumental music in different projects, and I think it's really interesting the way you can tell a story how much a story can come through across a different media, right? Like it can be and the scores of movies are incredibly important to helping tell a story, and as is the entire the whole experience of it. But I think that telling a story and actually telling a story that people can engage with for more than 10 seconds at a time, I think is pretty amazing. I mean, obviously, we all live in the world of short form media now, but I think that novels, I mean, even short stories, like you sit with a novel, you gotta put in some hours. Even if you're listening to it, it's hours, right? And so I think that those kinds of the arc and the patience and the investment that you can get from that, and an album is the equivalent, right? Like people I still release albums, not just like 30-second snippets. And I think that's a thing that people want still. And that even if they didn't want it, I think it's a form that's worth making. So I love that you write long form stuff too.
Yeah, for me, writing is kinda therapeutic, even if I'm not under a stressful situation. I have 3 kids, run the house. It can be stressful, so it's fun to escape into writing. At least that's how I ended up with these long forms. But for you, what has been I've listened to your lyrics and I love them. I think that they're great. They're sharp-witted. They explore very real emotional terrain. When you sit down, how do you go about writing a song? Like, how does the lyric process work?
Yeah, well, so I think the first album of material is called VDAD, and it'll come the whole album. I've started releasing singles from it, but the album will come out in a couple months. And the story behind those is very interesting, which is that a lot of the songs got written. I'm a guitar player primarily, I told you, but a lot of the songs got written as just lyrical snippets with a vocal melody first before I did anything else. And they literally got written in moments like, again, it's a little parenting heavy thematically, this album is, but, like, literally, I have an album about ki I mean, a song about kids' menu prices. It literally got written while I was carrying a kid in one hand and a phone pressing record on top of a takeout box of chicken tenders on the other hand, where I had to power walk, like, 4 blocks in the hot Chicago summer. And I literally the ideas popped into my head, and so sometimes the seed will start like that, which is just like a concept or a core little element that I think has something. But I find that a lot of the best ones end up getting written pretty fast as far as the core of it, not necessarily the final details. And sometimes I'll write a bunch of something and then come back to it literally a year later and have an epiphany and write the chorus. Like I have a rap song coming out called Snack Snatcher that is about literally about stealing your kid's snacks. And I wrote the chorus 9 months after I wrote the verses, but I wrote the chorus in like 10 minutes and I wrote the verse in like a half hour because it just sort of got going. But then once you start adding in guitar parts, because like when I perform these, a lot of them are with looped guitars and synthesizers and things that I run through a system that makes it sound like kind of a full band. And so then that is an incredibly fun other part of it, right? Which is like the things that emerge when you start kind of practicing it as a performance piece that then can fit back into a recording or whatever. Um, I also get a lot of because I'm the guy who like, if I call my friends on the phone or my family on the phone and they don't answer, their punishment is that I'm gonna leave them a voicemail and it's gonna be a song, maybe that I made up on the spot, maybe, who knows what it'll be. But so because people are used to getting barraged with my content in my core circle, I get, ideas from them for songs a lot of the time. Like people will one of my songs is, about looking on the bright side. It's called Spiders, and it's about how we could live in a universe where spiders fly, so at least we don't. And my brother came up with the idea. We were walking around during the middle of a total crisis in our lives, like with health issues and all this stuff, and he was just like, "Well, at least spiders don't fly." And that's a nugget, right? That then that then kind of grows into a whole other thing. So it varies a lot, but I think the I find that if I have energy and I'm really being pulled into something, that is a really strong signal that I should keep working on it. As opposed to saying, "Oh, I have to do that song is on my list of not finished songs. So this week I'll by God, I'm going to get it done." Like that's probably not going to yield as good of a result as if I'm just obsessed with it and I can't, and I'm blowing off other stuff because I'm just pulled into it. I think that's when the real gold comes out often. So
Absolutely. I completely agree. I know exactly what you're talking about. When I'm obsessed with a project, I can't let go of it. And if I do and try and force myself onto a different one, like you said, it just may not be as good enough quality as, when you're so focused on one project, it needs to be done. But I when you said the spiders flying, I really got like a chill up my spine because that freaks me out. It's ironic actually. I was downstairs in my basement um yesterday and I was just grabbing a few things and this spider, it seemed like it was flying. It landed on me and I screamed so loud. So when you said that, I was like, oh,
it's pretty funny. The other day I was playing a show in Vancouver and I'm singing a song and I get this email afterward from one of the people who was at the show, and the subject line was, "Maybe they can." And it was a link to an article because this is apparently I didn't really even know this, but apparently this is a top I mean, obviously arachnophobia is very real, but apparently the question of whether spiders can fly is actually decently well discussed and studied because people are feel like they fly, but they can't really. But there are some spiders that are apparently small enough and light enough that and they can do stuff with their webs basically so that they can kinda catch a breeze and get some distance. So maybe you got one of those, and there's obviously jumping spiders, but I also feel like, if one just drops from the ceiling onto you, that's just as bad as flying, basically.
it is. Yes. I did not handle it well, which is ridiculous, but whatever. So as you just mentioned, you went to Vancouver, you perform all over.
Yeah.
How do different audiences respond? Like, is it like universal response or, does each location have favorites?
Yeah, it's funny. I always love, being surprised by what songs are people's favorites because I have a song that I typically introduce as my weirdest song because I think it is the weirdest song. It's about a butt paste applicator spatula. I don't know if your kids are older now, but it's a gift I send to everybody when they have a kid because it's like, it's like a very nice, funny $3 tool that nobody thinks of. And I literally wrote a song about it like almost from the perspective of the thing itself. It's so weird. And I remember at my show one of my shows in New York, this woman came up to me, she was like, "That's my favorite song." And I was like, that is awesome, and that says a lot about you. You and I are obviously kindred spirits. Um, but yeah, I don't know that I can generalize based on, like, geography. I definitely think that a lot of again, this album especially is an artifact of a particular life stage. And so, right, it's like it really comes from this experience of like young kids, ailing parents, like, midlife crisis or pre-midlife, whatever. Like, I'm not claiming to be middle-aged exactly. Maybe I don't. I try to identify as not middle-aged yet. So millennials, it resonates with millennials, but I've found that that older folks, but like boomer generation, uh, look at a lot of that music with a sort of nostalgia in a way, sort of like the way that, when you become a grandparent, I think you get a lot of the benefits of parenting without the costs, in that you get to like be with kids, and you also get to sort of like remember fondly the suffering of parenting because you're not doing it. And you have the amnesia and you may have a real appreciation. You have almost a real, even deeper appreciation for it because you have perspective. And so, and with things like grief, right? Like, I think we forget how much people in our parents' generation how often they're experiencing grief because, it's like my dad's 80. Or he's 81. he'll he loses friends or, acquaintances or just people who he has known for a long time pretty often now, right? And it's like, so I think those themes too just give a mean a lot more to that generation even than they're more theoretical for a lot of people our age, luckily. And I wish they were theoretical for everybody. Um, but yeah, so I'm always very surprised by the range. But I just feel, again, that's connecting with people through the music and especially in person is why I do it. So it's the best that I get to do that, and I get to have some random person who I hadn't even met before come up and tell me that they love my song about, butt paste. Or somebody else comes up and they'll listen to my instrumental stuff and they'll be like, "Hey, that's really what resonated with me." So, but you got to put it all out there to find out, right? You can't your song. I say, "Oh, this song is too weird to play live." I've never said that because I'm a weirdo. But like, if I ever have that hesitation, I have to remind myself like people are really weird. All Everybody's really weird. So, got to give them a chance to appreciate your weirdness.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And yes, I I can't get past the butt face thing. That would have been actually very helpful back when my kids were in diapers. So that's really funny. So Plot Twist Radio is all about the unexpected turns in creative lives. What has been the biggest plot twist in your story so far?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the biggest one for me was probably this. It's funny because to me it was a big plot twist in that if you were watching the sort of like if you read my resume or something, if you read like I did this, just a linear chronology of like what I did. It's like I did this, then I did that, went to business school, like started a company, did worked in venture capital. I think then the next step would not have been like the large language model predicting what's the next word in this sequence was not probably would not have said like, oh, and then he became a musician. So I think that it in from the distance looks like a pivot, but I think the thing that's been amazing about it is the more somebody knows me from my life, the less surprised they are by that. And so I think that makes me feel really, not that it not even if everyone said I was an idiot, if it felt as good as it does to me, I'd still do it. But they don't say that, and the more they know me, the more they're like, "Oh, yeah, you're a clown. Underneath it all, you're a clown. So, you did all this other stuff, but, like, you did that as a clown dressing up as those other things." And I honestly, I just feel really lucky that I got to pursue all these other things in my life that I really loved. It's not like I did that just because I thought I was supposed to or something. I really loved what I was doing, but it is a twist. And it's one that, again, kind of a cliche, but like a lot of losses and stress and like a real, humdinger, right? Like house under renovation, like having our second kid with a little toddler while losing a parent and my brother. And like, it's a truly like talk about plot twist. Like you're humming along in a movie. It's like you're humming along in a movie and then there's a car crash basically. And so that's a twist, but I think then to me, the biggest thing is like feeling very mixed looking back on that because obviously I wish it didn't happen, but at the same time, like, yeah, I appreciate what it has what it has encouraged me to do or enabled in my sort of mindset to shift. Um, so, but a big time plot twist for me. But I think that maybe the people who are going to experience it most as a plot twist are people who, when I give these updates to like my former colleagues or people who I worked with who literally never knew that I even played guitar as a hobby or sang as a hobby. And then they'll shoot me an email being like, wanting to talk about some other thing. And I'll say, well, here's my update. Here's my Spotify link. And they're like, wow, okay. And then that conversation is always amazing because it's like, it uncovers the degree to which everybody has these things that they really care about or that they've been reluctant to do or that they are scared to do or maybe they can't afford to do it or there's all these reasons. Um, but those conversations are real plot twist ones where they're like, I had no idea. So that's kind of my story, but yeah, I just feel really lucky to get to do it.
Absolutely. So, where can the audience find you? Are you on socials? Where can they find your music?
Yeah, I try to be everywhere. So I'm on Williton on TikTok and Instagram and just one word Williton. And then I also have a website, williton.com, and then I'm on all the streaming platforms, just steadily releasing singles. And the VDAD album will probably come out in February or March when I pick a final date. And maybe we'll push it out a little longer depending on how many singles we want to roll. Snack Snatcher is going to come out over the or late winter though, so I'm very excited about that. But yeah, I'm on Spotify and kind of everywhere and I play I as you mentioned I play a lot of shows. I did a whole tour across North America of living room and backyard shows, which were amazing, kind of like 20 to 100 person type shows and then play venues as well. But that kind of that intimacy is really great. So if people want to host shows ever at in non-conventional, unconventional kind of non-traditional venues, they can message me and we should talk about it because I'm a big fan of performing in places where you wouldn't necessarily think of performing. So I'll just throw that out there to the universe. And in 2026, I'm sure I'll be traveling around a lot to play shows. So hopefully, can find some folks to connect with.
Absolutely. I love that you do the backyard and living room. I love that. I think that's getting a little more popular as of late, and I love it. I think that would be fun.
Really great because it's obviously super intimate and it solves a lot of the problems of trying to book. Like it's logistically often easier. And I think there's also just something really kind of grassroots about it. It's an invite that people don't often get also. So people want to go, right? Like saying yes to go to a concert at a venue when you've never heard of the artist if you're a big music person, you'll say yes every time. Like I would never say no. But but getting invited to go to somebody's house for a house concert of an artist you've never heard, it's like your friend's friend. It feels there's a different feel to it that I find you kind of feel like you're all in cahoots. You know what I mean? Whenever everybody gets there and they're sort of like, who is this? What's going on? Or they know you a little bit, but they're really fun.
Well, thank you so much for being with me today. This was really fun. I look forward to hearing more of your music. You said the album and maybe the spring. Is that what you said? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Early spring is the target. But there's singles rolling out all the time. So about once a month, there's a new one coming out. So
Awesome.
but yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's really great to talk to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks again to Will for joining the show. I love how much space he makes for both laughter and grief to exist at the same time. What really stayed with me is Will's reminder that humor isn't a way to dodge pain, it's often the way we survive it. His music doesn't try to clean up life or make it neat. Instead, he invites us to laugh at the absurd, sit with the hard moments, and recognize ourselves in the mess. If there's one takeaway from this episode, it's that creativity doesn't belong on stages or in studios. It belongs in everyday lives, in our work, our losses, and the quiet moments where we're just trying to keep going. You can find Will's music, performances, and upcoming projects in the show notes, and I highly recommend spending some time with his work. It might make you laugh at first, but then it's going to hit somewhere deeper. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who appreciates creativity with heart. I'm your host, Erin, and this has been Plot Twist Radio, where the unexpected turns are often the ones that matter most. Until next time.